Hey there gamers, welcome back to the Board Game Co channel, and this is a preview of Dodos Riding Dinos first race. Well, hey there gamers, it's Professor Meg here, and this is a preview of Dodos Riding Dinos. Thank you to Digestible Games and Draco Studios for sponsoring this video, and this is a Kickstarter campaign that you can check out in the link down below. It is, I believe, an upcoming campaign that has either launched or is launching very soon, but with that, we are talking about Dodos Riding Dinos, and this is first race. You may be familiar with the regular game. This is a game that already exists, and this is a version that takes the regular base version that is very, very exciting. It's a racing game where you are moving around the board as Dodos Riding Dinos, known as Dodinos. That's what your little pair is called, and you're going to be racing along a board. And with first race, it is simplified a bit that now it's a bit more accessible for all of your young ones, and definitely a great gateway game to introduce players to racing. In Dodos Riding Dinos first race, players are going to have their Dodino pair, and the cards are now going to come with an asymmetric ability. So you can choose to play with these different abilities. I'm going to go over the game first, but just know when you are starting the game and choosing, you are going to have a little bit of asymmetry here with a one-time use ability that you can use throughout the game. Now players are going to be racing along these tracks where you will start here over in the 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and 6 spots, meaning that if you are starting later in the game, you're a little bit closer to the start. And then you'll start racing around this board, playing cards simultaneously, where you'll simultaneously choose a card to play from your hand, and then going in clockwise order from the first player, you will resolve all of your cards, and after that you'll see just how close everyone has gotten to the finish line over here. Once you get to the finish line, you'll see whoever has gotten in the absolute furthest if multiple players have crossed the finish line, and that's how the game ends. Now there are a lot of things that are going to interrupt the game. You're going to be using different cards to move from your hand, but players are going to be playing different tricks on you as well, which are these different things here that are really going to interact with players in a special way. Now at the beginning of the game, players are going to start with 6 cards in their hand, and I'm going to go over the different types of cards in a second, but you are going to start with 6, and that is going to change drastically throughout the game. There are certain abilities that will have you pay cards to do, or have other players pay cards, and there are different things that will allow you to draw cards or take cards from other players' hands as well. So the amount of cards in your hands will change a lot, but during the movement phase, if you ever don't have a red or blue card in your hand, you will draw until you have one. And if you ever have no cards in your hand, you will move back 3 spaces and then draw 3 cards. So there's definitely a penalty to not being able to have cards. Also, at the end of the round, any players who are not in the front will also draw a card. So cards are going to be the main economy of your game, and this is going to be your action selection. Now, going over the different types of cards, there are blue, red, and green. Your blue and red will be your movement for how you are moving along the different track. For example, if you played one of these blue cards here, you would move the amount shown within the blue paw. So 2, 1, or 4. And if you played one of the red cards, you would do the same thing for a 5 or a 2. Now the red cards are a bit more aggressive. They have stronger abilities attached to them. And in the previous game, if a specific number of red cards were played, there would be a penalty. However, in Dodos Riding Dinos first race, this is not a rule, and there's no penalty to multiple players playing red cards. So that is something that is a bit different and gives a lot more flexibility to new players to the game. Alright, and going over the different cards, for these blue cards here, both this card and this card would have you advance an additional number of spaces. So this one would be 6 and this one would be 2, totaling either 7 spaces total for you to move forward, or 6, which is a pretty strong move. This one would also allow you to draw 2 cards and roll the die, and based on the die you would move that many spaces. So this would be a 4, that's really great. This would have you moving a total of 6 that round, plus drawing 2 cards. Now for the red cards, these are going to have you doing something negative to other players. It's going to be your projectiles for some of them, but a lot of them are going to have negative effects. So this first one here, you would move 5 spaces, and then you would have to discard 4 of your own cards. If you aren't able to discard, you aren't able to use that effect. However, you would be able to play this card just to move the 5 spaces. Now this effect is that for 5 different players, you're able to steal 2 cards each from them. That's really, really strong. Again, you are paying 4 of your own cards from your hand and discarding it, but you are then gaining cards from other players, taking it away from them. Now, there's also this one, which would be the egg, which is one of your projectiles. The projectiles are really fun, and this is in a dexterity element that is added to the game. So, for example, for the egg, you need to put the egg in one of the nests, which is in one of the four corners of the board, and then using your index finger only, you would then flick it to try to hit your opponents. Whatever opponents you hit is going to have a negative effect, but you would try to put it in a certain area, and oop, that was not good at all, and flick it to try to hit someone. And if you were able to do so, hitting someone here, you would then have them pay this penalty. So they would have to move back 5 spaces. You would then move forward 5 spaces, and 4 cards would be discarded from the player who played this card if they missed and wasn't able to hit any of the other players. Now, I'm going to go over the other projectiles now, but the rest of that is basically the same, that there is a penalty for the opponents if they hit them, and then they're able to move forward, or they need to discard cards if they aren't able to hit their opponent. Now, these projectiles are always used when you play the card that corresponds with them, so you're only going to be using a specific ability if the card shows you that you should be doing it, and you're always using it to hit your opponents to try to send them further back in the game. So we already went over the egg, but there is also the banana. So for the banana, you need to have your elbow on the table, and using just your wrist and your hand, you need to flick it onto the board. So you would do something like this. That went off the table. It's already gone. I can't show you the banana anymore. But you can see just how hard it is to be able to hit something. Now, moving on, we also have the meteorite. For the meteorite, this one you are going to close into your fist, and you're going to hold it, I believe, as high as your forehead, and then you're just going to drop it. You're trying to drop it, hitting it on your different opponents, but let's see. Are we able to... Oh my gosh, we did. We hit both of these, which was the 2 I was aiming for. I'm not really sure which one I think I was in this example, but these were the 2 I was aiming for, and I did hit them. So if I did play this meteor card, they would then have to pay 7 cards. Alright, and going on to the star. The star might be my favorite, but this is one where you are going to have the star, put it flat into your hand. You're going to hold it, I believe, 4 inches above the board, and then you're going to try to just smack it onto somebody. So again, I guess let's go for these guys as my foes, and we'll try to smack them again, but we're just gonna, you just do a little, is that 4 inches? Yes, this is 4 inches. We did. I will have to check the playback, but I definitely at least hit the green one, potentially the teal one too, but I definitely hit the green one. So that is what you are trying to do with the different projectiles. You are trying to follow these rules and do very silly things, throwing these things all around. The bananas is probably my favorite. It's absolutely the most exciting one when you actually hit somebody. I did that one in a game where I actually got someone with the banana, and it is very, very satisfying. So that is the projectiles. Now, the green cards in this game are very unique because players are going to be able to play these as a response to stopping certain things from happening. You're able to play this during phases 2 through 4, but this is when you're going to be using the star to try to hit a particular opponent to have them pay a certain effect. Now, the ones that you have showing here would be moving back 3 spaces or 2 spaces, but this one would be canceling a red effect. So if that opponent did play a red card that turn, you would be able to cancel the effect of that card. The player would still move within the footprint amount, but after that, they wouldn't be able to trigger that effect. So that's a really important reason to hold on to your green cards and play them in response to different things, because you are only allowed 1 per round in response to different players. Now that we've gone over a lot of the base rules of the game, I'll go over some of the asymmetric powers that are added to these different Dodinos. So this one's pretty straightforward, where you would be able to, for a one-time ability, move forward 5 spaces, which could really bring you toward the finish line at the end of the game. Or, for example, here's one where you would be able to draw 2 cards and then roll the die and move forward that many spaces. Here's another one where you would pay 2 cards from your hand and you would discard them, but then you would be able to roll this die twice and move forward that many spaces. So they can be very strong abilities to have you hopefully brought toward the end of the game. and it can be a really strategic choice when to use them, but it's also not overwhelming because it is a one-time use ability. So for anyone who is new to gaming or any younger players, it is very useful to have a one-time use ability that can give them something that feels very strong or perhaps puts them more ahead in the game, but they don't have to worry about being able to manage that or use it in the future. Now, another thing I'd love to show you guys is this is just one side of the map, but there's also another side to the map that is this rainbow pattern that players will go through. So I just thought this was really beautiful, and I wanted to show you this side that there are two maps. I do think that this one is a bit more classic and what you might be more used to for Dodos Riding Dinos, but there is this really beautiful rainbow map on the other side for players to play with as well. Overall, the pace of play of the game is going to have players simultaneously choosing cards from their hand to play for the round. They will all reveal them at the same time, and then starting with the first player, everyone will resolve their cards. So depending on how close you are to being the first player, you may change what you do, especially which projectiles you target at who, based on who is getting ahead of you in the game. This is very much a take that game with a lot of silly tactile things, where all of a sudden something like a meteorite is going to get dropped on you and set you further back in the game, or you'll have a really lucky draw along with your asymmetric power that can really send you toward the end. Now, this is a game that has no words in it. Everything is now symbols, so it's very accessible both for new players and for younger players and things like that, and can play very quickly. This has been Dodos Riding Dinos first race. Thank you to Draco Studios and Detestable Games for sponsoring this video. As a reminder, this has been a prototype copy in front of me, and you can check out their link down below to see everything that they have planned for Kickstarter. I'm Professor Meg, and I will see you all next time. Bye! Hey there gamers, welcome back to the Board Game Co channel, and this is a preview of Dodos Riding Dinos, Dodos Riding Dinos, Dodos Riding Dodos, Dinos. Hey there gamers, welcome back to the Board Game Co channel, and this is a preview of Dodos Riding Dinos. Hey there gamers, welcome back to the Board Game Co channel. And this is a preview of Dodos Riding Dinos. Dinos. Dodos Riding Dinos. Dodos Riding Dinos.